Welcome back to the Burrow, my beautiful philosophines. I'm Critter, your resident overthinking gremlin, and today we're conducting emergency composure training, aka part 5 of our 10-part series, Press Start to Detach, keeping composure under pressure. If you survived part 4 on handling criticism, good. And if not, how about you press pause and go check it out, because today we're leveling up to maintaining cool when the walls are literally closing in. And yes, your psychological first aid kit is waiting below my 10 dumb smart tools to outwit your brain PDF, because apparently I think your amygdala needs its own HUD. Pro tip, grab it before your fight or flight response tries to argue with you. There exists a particular breed of quiet terror in the moment between hearing the distant footsteps of something inhuman and seeing it round the corner. This suspended heartbeat of anticipation, found in games like Alien Isolation and Resident Evil 2, is where true composure is forged. Not during the calm before the storm, nor in the frantic scramble of survival, but in that breathless interval where preparation meets pandemonium. Horror games, more than any other medium, understand that pressure doesn't create character. It reveals the fractures in our preparedness, exposing whether we've built foundations of steel or sand. The genius of survival horror lies in its cruel honesty. Where other genres might reward improvisation, these games punish it mercilessly. Try to think on your feet when Mr. X bursts through the wall in Resident Evil 2, and you'll find yourself reloading a save file. The players who survive are those who've already played the scenario in their mind a dozen times before it happens. They've noted the exit routes, counted their bullets, and, most critically, accepted that the horror will come. This isn't pessimism, it's the kind of clear-eyed preparedness that Navy SEALs call stress inoculation. By the time danger arrives, the prepared player isn't making decisions, they're executing plans made in safer moments. Consider the unnatural calm of veteran Dark Souls players facing a new boss. Where novices flinch and spam buttons, experts move with almost meditative precision. This dichotomy mirrors a fundamental truth about human performance under pressure. What looks like supernatural composure is really just the visible surface of submerged preparation. Neurological studies of expert musicians and athletes show that under extreme stress, the brain falls back on deeply grooved neural pathways, the mental equivalent of a Silent Hill protagonist automatically finding the save room when health is low. The terrifying growl of a monster becomes just another input to process, another variable in an already calculated equation. Yet, horror games teach us about the limits of preparation. Amnesia, The Dark Descent, weaponizes this brilliantly. No matter how carefully you plan, the game's sanity mechanic ensures you'll eventually be forced to operate in the dark, both literally and psychologically. Here we find the second pillar of true composure, the ability to function when plans collapse. Like a Dead Space engineer jury-rigging weapons from spare parts, this is where creativity emerges from the wreckage of preparation. The true test isn't whether you can execute a perfect strategy, but whether you can rebuild one mid-collapse while something hungry breathes down your neck. Perhaps the most profound lesson comes from games like Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, where the pressure is internal as much as external. Senua's journey teaches us that composure isn't the absence of fear or doubt, but the ability to move forward while carrying on. Modern psychology calls this distress tolerance, the capacity to endure emotional storms without being capsized by them. In the game's most harrowing moments, when the voices threaten to overwhelm, progress comes not from silencing them, but from learning to walk through their noise. The final revelation horror games offer about pressure is the most counterintuitive. Sometimes the way through is to surrender, not to panic, but to the flow of the situation. In Outlast, players who try to rigidly control every variable quickly become another corpse in the asylum. Those who survive adopt a kind of adaptive fatalism, reading the environment's rhythms like a jazz musician writing a discordant melody. This mirrors the concept of Wu Wei in Taoist philosophy, the art of purposeful non-action. There's a reason the phrase, "don't just do something, stand there," exists in emergency medicine. Sometimes composure means resisting the urge to force solutions and instead letting the situation reveal its own exits. When we strip away the grotesque monsters and bloodstained corridors, horror games emerge as perhaps the purest simulator of pressured decision-making. They understand that the difference between crumbling and thriving under stress isn't some innate quality, but the sum of countless invisible preparations. The player who moves calmly through the nightmare isn't braver, they've simply done the work beforehand, leaving nothing to chance or heroics. In the end, keeping composure under pressure is not about controlling the uncontrollable, but about knowing, deep in your bones, that you've done everything possible to tip the scales in your favor before the horror even begins. If this video helped you realize True Calm looks less like a meditation app and more like a Dark Souls veteran facing a new boss, how about you do yourself a solid? Smash that like button to prove to the algorithm that pressure did not break you. Comment your most clutch, kept cool under fire moment. Subscribe because part 6, letting go of what you can't control, is coming to surgically remove your perfectionism. And remember, whether you're dodging literal monsters or Monday meetings, the burrow is always open. See you next time, Philosophians.